Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunrise with Sara. Sara here. I am your host. Thank you for joining me today. This is a podcast about connection, growth, and wholehearted living. And every week, I'll bring you episodes that are either solo episodes like the one today, where I just talk about some life stuff, or interviews. And the interviews are with some movers and shakers in the self empowerment, health and wellness, relationships, kind of arenas. Really cool people. A caveat before I get started is that I'm growing along with you. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a life coach. I'm not going to pretend to be. I'm a friend that's talking about life issues, and I reflect a boatload in my life, and I'm hopeful that my reflections can help you. Let's dive into it. Okay. So I'm trying the YouTubes again. I don't know if you noticed last week, but I was trying the YouTubes. My camera died about 5 minutes into it and I didn't really notice. So trying again. I'm recording on Zoom this time and I feel very confident about it. So this episode will have video, hopefully, fingers crossed, unless something goes woefully wrong, today when you're listening to it. So yeah, feeling good about it. And I also want to say a reminder that starting in February, we will be doing the 28 Days of Joy challenge on Instagram. That's where I'll be posting it. But my hope for you is that if February is a tough month for you, like it is for me, that you take part. And the goal is to just do one thing every day just because, yeah, freaking love it and for no other reason. So, some things that I do or will be doing is like taking a dance class or going for a walk, FaceTiming friends, like painting my nails, but making sure I block off time every single day throughout February. Um, Blocking off time for me to do something that I just really love, like taking care of myself. And I'm planning on doing a bonus episode that'll go out this week as well, just kind of diving a little bit more into it about like what the challenge is, other stuff that I'll be doing. So look out for that later this week. It'll be a bonus episode, like not on the schedule of Mondays. So keep an eye out. Okay, so that's all like the clerical work that we needed to get through. But catching up a little bit, I just finished an awesome interview with someone who's going, I think the episode is going to go live like early to mid February, and I'm feeling like very energized after that conversation. Like it was an hour-long interview and I was like, oh my, I feel good. It was just such a wholehearted and like wonderful conversation. But I was like, I have all my equipment already up. Like I have my makeup done. I'm just gonna I'm just going to record this episode. It doesn't take too long. So I'm just, kind of doing like a back-to-back episode recording thing. And other than that, not much is going on in life. It's a beautiful day in Seattle, but it's very smoky. The wildfires are still cooking on the West Coast. And unfortunately, that means on really nice days, the air qualities can be kind of crummy. So I'm hoping to make it outside today, but I don't really know. But other than that, like I'm planning on making soup this weekend, and that's probably going to be the highlight. COVID. So today we are going to talk about applying to jobs and the limiting beliefs that come along with it and limiting beliefs that I've come across in my time on this planet. Before we dive into it, though, I kind of just want to ground us all and acknowledge that in the US, about 6.7% of Americans are unemployed right now. So 6.7%, what does that mean? Like prior to the pandemic, it was at 3.5%. So we've just about doubled the unemployment rate. And as far as number of people, that means 12 million Americans are without a job right now. 12 million people are without a job right now. And then what goes into the unemployment numbers are also people who have, like, there are some caveats to like who is incorporated into that number. So it's people who are without a job have applied for unemployment benefits and have been seeking out work in the past 4 weeks. So that doesn't include people who have been laid off but decided to spend their efforts towards like just educating their children, like, and aren't actively looking. So, um, I'm going to put the sources of all of these numbers in there, but like we're probably looking at more like 30 million Americans without a job and are unemployed. So that it's like really serious. And so just calling that out, that like if you have a job right now, like you are hella lucky. Like I still have my job. So I'm acknowledging that I'm coming from like a really big place of privilege here, and I'm incredibly fortunate. And I also want to acknowledge that the job market is really tough right now. Okay. I just wanted to set the groundwork so we kind of know what environment we're working in. But I've also because of the pandemic, it's given a lot of people a lot of time to think about their life, like think about the jobs that they want, like their career path. And I know of quite a few people who are looking for new jobs right now, or are have been unemployed and are looking for a job. So I wanted to talk through some of the limiting beliefs that come up when you're looking for a job, because it's a very weird spot, particularly if you are in need of a job. So if you don't have a job right now and you want one, like that's very panic inducing. But also if you really hate your job and are looking for a new job, that also feels a little bit desperate, and and sometimes like weird thoughts pop into your head. The first one I want to address is the phrase, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I've heard this so many times in my life. I'm sure you have too. And I just have a really prickly relationship with this phrase because, on one hand, I'm like, of course, yeah, leverage your connections, like shake what your mama gave you. Like if you got them, use them. Like that's wonderful. I'm also thinking like amazing, like we do go further together. Like you need other people in your life to help you out, and like why not ask for help? Why not lean on others? Like on one hand I'm like really digging that. I'm also dig like the emphasis on like networking and like yeah, get out there, meet people, like I love that if it inspires that. On the other hand, I hate it's not what you know, it's who you know, because it creates a lot of I'm using limiting beliefs, but like it when I say limiting beliefs, it's like anything that you think that may hold you back. It could be anything also that like makes you feel like crap. So a couple of these limiting beliefs for it's not what you know, it's who you know is like, holy shit, I don't know anybody, so I'm doomed. Or like, my family isn't incredibly connected, so I'm doomed. On the other hand, if you do leverage a connection to get a job, you may have imposter syndrome or feeling like you don't deserve what you got. So I got here through a connection, therefore I'm not really worthy of this role. I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm kind of a fraud. I don't deserve to be here anyways. Really yucky feelings. And like, so if you leverage a connection and you get a job, like if you say it's not what you know, it's who you know, you are immediately discrediting your value. When you say it's not what I know, it's who I know, is basically saying my value, I don't have much value. I need to get my value from other people in order to achieve things in my life. And I really can't get behind that. It can be very damaging. Um, and also on the other hand, with the if I don't know anyone, I'm doomed. I felt this in college. When I was looking for internships, I saw like some folks like who were like, oh yeah, I'm like working at my uncle's company, or like they had like one of their family members was like an executive at some sort of company. And I would look at them and I kind of resented my family a bit, because I was like, Jesus Christ, like my parents aren't millionaires. Like I, I don't have any connections. Like I am probably screwed in this whole like internship thing, and that's not healthy either. But I applied to a bunch of places, and this is kind of like getting to the positive, like flip side, like, okay, what do we do about this business? Um, if you are looking at it and you're like, I don't know anyone, so I'll have a really tougher I'll have a much tougher time. It's possible that you'll have a tougher time, but it's not it's very possible that you can succeed just as well without it. So something that's a little bit scary is applying on a job site. If you just drop your resume on a job site, you're like, well, I don't know, like it's probably going into a black hole, but maybe not. From personal experiences, like even starting with internships and even jobs, I have gotten like the majority of the jobs that I've had through the job site. And my approach was like just apply to a ton of them. And I mean, like, this is just like a side note, but when I'm anxious about something, I tend to do more, like I do more, which, isn't always good. But so I applied to a bunch of places and I did get some of the jobs. I also got rejected by a zillion of them. So it's not to say that like everything's just hunky dory, but you just apply anyways. It can be what you know. Like people are looking at your resume and really just like believe that you are worthy. It's like kind of like what it boils down to. And then the other thing, if you are having imposter syndrome and you don't think that you deserve to be there, just know that like literally everyone has probably felt that at some point in your life. And even if you have leveraged a connection, most of the time you also know your stuff. And I really think a lot of places probably wouldn't hire you if they didn't think that you could do the job. So just know everyone has felt that. Everyone has felt imposter syndrome in their life. And honestly, like if you haven't felt that, you like that might be like psychopathic, like it's just a very few people on this planet will go through life without imposter syndrome. It's totally normal, but know that like you were hired for a reason and that who you know totally helps, but it is also what you know. So those are my feelings on it's not what you know, it's who you know. Personally, I'm like, fuck all that. Like you can absolutely make it in this world without knowing anyone or being set up with like a ton of connections. Like you can make your own connections. If you're really effing good at your job, it's going to shine through. And this led me down the path of like other limiting beliefs related to job searching and kind of like this is like a Hewlett Packard report, but I've heard this from multiple people that women apply to jobs if they meet 100% of the qualifications and men apply to jobs if they meet 60% of the qualifications. So basically like a woman, the story of this is saying that like women don't apply to jobs unless they look at the qualifications and they're like, yep, I am every single one of those. And even if it's just one that they don't match up with, like they won't apply. And men are just like, hey, screw it, and like apply if they meet like 60%. So that's really damaging, I guess, for women if we're looking at jobs and we're telling ourselves like, well, I'm not that, and focusing on the what they aren't versus what they are. um, but I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper into that with where Harvard Business Review they dug beneath the surface, because like what the Hewlett Packard report is pretty much saying like, hey women, if you just had more confidence in yourself, like you would do better. And I totally think that the confidence thing is an issue, but Harvard Business Review um, found out more reasons why people don't apply to jobs that kind of tell us a little bit more. So I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to link all of these sources to like the Harvard Business Review and all that jazz below in the show notes. But so what Harvard Business Review did, they interviewed like thousands of people, thousands of people, both men and women, to find out why they didn't apply to a job. And these are self-reported responses, just as like a heads up. So it might not be the actual reason why, but it's like what they said their reason why was. The number one reason for both men and women as to why they didn't apply to a job is I didn't think they would hire me since I didn't meet the qualifications and I didn't want to waste my time and energy. To me, I'm like, that's fair that you didn't want to waste your time and energy on applying to a place that you were like, well, they probably wouldn't hire me. Um, but also, my thought is like, let the company tell you that you are not qualified. You don't necessarily have to count yourself out right away. Another interesting thing about that is that people are saying that they didn't think that they would be hired, not necessarily saying that they wouldn't be good at the job. They didn't say, like, I didn't apply because I didn't think I would do it well, which is kind of playing into what the Hewlett Packard report was saying. Like, women, you just need to have more confidence in yourself. And what this is telling me is like, it's not so much like we don't think that we can do a good job. It's just that we don't think that the hiring system works like that, where you can be like 60% of the qualifications and still get hired. The second reason why people don't apply to jobs, this is where men and women differ. And I find it very fascinating and very telling. So men, for their second reason why they wouldn't apply to a job is, I was being respectful of the time and preferences of the person reviewing applications. They had already made clear who they were looking for. So they were being respectful of the person reviewing the applications. To me, I read that and I'm like, that's some smooth talk and maybe not genuine response. Because the reason why I think that is because who cares? Like, companies have machines that sift through all of their applications. So the person reviewing the applications is only reviewing the ones that the machine says, like, these would be like good candidates. So to me, I'm like, are you like putting up a front for the real reason why you didn't apply? But that's what men self-reported. Women, for their second reason why they wouldn't apply to a job, is, I didn't think they would hire me since I didn't meet the qualifications and I didn't want to put myself out there if I was likely to fail. Oh boy. So now we're getting into like some real stuff. So now we aren't talking about like whether or not you would be hired, even though that was a part of the response, but I'm reading this as, I didn't want to put myself out there if I was going to fail. I didn't want to put myself out there if I was going to be rejected. And I kind of want to talk about like how unhealthy and limiting like that point of view can be, and how kind of scary that is. So like, if you only apply to jobs that you feel really, really confident that you are going to get, that really limits the number of jobs that you will apply to. Secondarily, the more you bubble wrap yourself and you don't put yourself out there for rejection, the less confidence you will have. Conversely, and I promise this will make sense. In the 5th episode that I recorded with Danielle Carrasco, we talked all about failure and how through rejection, you actually build confidence. The more you get rejection, the more you fail at something, the more confident you will be. Because each time you fail and each time you get rejected, you learn that it's less and less of a big deal to be rejected and to fail. And then you find confidence in that and knowing, oh, I can get over that. Oh, I can endure that. Oh, this isn't really a big deal to fail. I highly recommend listening to that episode if you haven't already, but failure cannot and should not be avoided. And the more you fail, the more confident you will become. And if failure is the number one or number two, in this case, if we're looking at the Harvard Business Review, as to why you're not going for things, you're really holding yourself back in life, and you're actually making yourself more insecure by not failing. Okay. And then the third reason why people there's some other reasons why people did not apply for jobs. Some other limiting beliefs is that they didn't think that they could do the job well, which fair if that's your reasoning. The other reason on this list that Harvard Business Review published is that I was following the guidelines about who should apply. So this one, women way outweighed men in their responses. And I'm going to read it one more time. I was following the guidelines about who should apply. So now we're talking about like rules. And to me, this is telling me like some socialization around like what we should be doing. And I think from women, if we're going to talk in general, like a general premise is that women are kind of taught more to like stay in line and to follow rules and to be people pleasers um and that we should kind of know our place. That is talking generally speaking, and I am seeing that in this data where like women are like I was doing what I should be doing, or like I was staying in my place and following the guidelines about who should apply, when men were not as concerned about that. Similarly, when we're talking about socialization, like women were more likely to not apply to a job out of fear of failure than men. And I think that can go back to the socialization of like women not being socialized or told as much to like take risks and to fail. And we don't really grow up with too much of that, that it's more impactful to us and we get more anxiety around failing. But so like I know that's kind of like blaming um outside factors as to like why we are the way that we are, but I don't think that we should look at this as sort of a victim thing. I think that we should look at this as good information for us to know so we can combat those. So just knowing that we are socialized to not fail as much, and knowing that the more we fail, the better off we will be, the more confident we will be. We need to talk ourselves out of it. If we're looking at a job and we're like, oh, I don't think I'm going to get this one, apply anyways. Play the long game and know that by doing this, you are building up more of a tolerance for failure. You are building more confidence. You are building more resilience in yourself, and that it's not necessarily about the job. It's about you as a person overall. Same thing with following guidelines as to who should apply. Fuck it. Fuck it all. Like let the company tell you that you are not a fit for the role. Don't say that to yourself. Don't look at a job and be like, "Oh, they don't want me." Like let them tell you that. Don't tell yourself that. So use the what we know, use this data of like why men versus women don't apply to jobs. Use the knowledge that we have about like how we have been socialized in life, and let's overcome this business. So that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of this episode. Some takeaways from today is it's not just who you know, it's also what you know. Please don't let that phrase get you down. If you've gotten a job through a connection, it's also what you know. There are probably very few cases where a connection has like if you get a job through a connection that they got you there, you got that job solely because you know someone. I would say very few cases are probably like that. Like you also have to know your stuff, and they probably wouldn't hire you if you weren't capable of doing the job. Also, if you're not connected and you don't really have connections in the area of life that you want to go in, it's not over for you. You can do it. There are so many people who have gotten great jobs through dropping their resume online. Don't let that get you down. Don't be like it's going to a black hole. It doesn't matter. Sure, that will happen to a few. Like for some places, that's happened to me several times where like you just don't hear from a lot of people, but you'll also hear from some. And so you have to just do it and just apply. Other takeaways, let the company decide that you're unfit to do the job. It's not up to you to decide, like they'll tell you. And if that freaks you out being rejected, that means you got to do it way more. And the more that you fail, the more confident you will be, the more resilient you will be, and just play the long game there. I highly recommend listening to the episode with Daniela Carrasco. She wrote a book called Pity Partiers, and it's basically about how can we celebrate failure more, because the more we fail, the better off we are. And the last thing I want to talk about is that companies hire people, not resumes. So even if you don't meet all of the qualifications, like if a company looks at your resume and they find you interesting, they'll talk to you. And then when they talk to you in the interview, it might not be completely about the job requirements. They'll be more interested in you, like the way that you think, your work ethic, your background. There's more to hiring someone than just the requirements that are on the job site. So companies hire people, not resumes. So, and the last thing is, I said that was the last thing, but I got one more for you, is that a lot of these limiting beliefs, like humans tend to go negative on a lot of things. Like there are way more like negative emotion words than positive emotion words. But we have to fight that tendency to always go negative. We have to assume the best. So when you read a job application and you're like, oh, I don't know anyone there, like, oh, I'm not qualified, I only meet like 50% of the qualifications, like, oh, like any other limiting belief, like we have to really work to assume the best here and be like, what if I got an interview? Like think more positively. So assume the best, assume like the best stuff's going to happen, and know that you can endure the worst. Know that you can endure rejection and that it's going to feel weird. Another episode that might help you is the Valley of Despair episode. I think that's episode 4, but it's basically like what happens to you like post failure / like going through any transition in life. Like the world is probably going to end for you like a day or two after you fail, but then you end up being okay and you normalize, and then you can carry on with your life. And by going through that process, you know that you can go through that process and you do live more confidently. So we really got to kick these limiting beliefs. They really aren't helpful to us. And just apply is what is the whole point of this episode. Just apply. So if you're looking to change your job or change like your career path or applying for a job, perhaps you were laid off and you're applying for a job, like just apply, like understand where your limiting beliefs come from and really work to overcome them. And you can do it. You can do it. Okay, that's it. Please, if you found this episode helpful, this little pep talk helpful, subscribe, leave a review, give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. You can find me on Instagram at Sunrise with Sara. Also, my website is sunrisewithsara.com. We have new episodes every Monday. Next week is going to be an interview with someone who is really cool. She's an actress. She's a director. She's a producer. She's kind of like all of the things, like really, really empowering conversation coming up. And the intro and outro music is by Matt McGee. And that's all I got for you. Okay, I'm going to enjoy this smoky, sunny kind of day. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you next week. Okay, bye-bye.